Wide beam and narrow beam X-ray sources. Today we're going to find out what they are and when to use them. There are two types of X-ray sources out there. It's what we call narrow beam sources and wide beam sources. So let's start with the narrow beam and understand exactly what does it mean. So a narrow beam source, and by narrow beam we're talking about the angle that the X-ray photons depart from the X-ray source. So for a narrow beam source, this beta angle here is about 40 degrees. It varies from vendor to vendor, but 40 is kind of the typical narrow beam aperture of that X-ray photon beam. And this is great for applications where the X-ray sensor is stationary, right? As you can see here, the X-ray photons are going to shine the X-ray sensor and everything looks good. In a wide beam, and typically wide beam, we're looking at 100 degrees of that aperture of the X-ray photons departing from the X-ray source. So beta is about 100 degrees. For a wide beam source, as you can see here, the X-ray source, X-ray photons typically cover a much larger area than the X-ray sensor itself. So this wide beam is ideally for applications where we need to tilt that X-ray sensor back and forth, right? So you can keep the X-ray source stationary and the sensor can move, in any trajectory, and it's going to be covered by the X-ray beam. On a narrow beam, if you move the sensor, either you move the X-ray source in XY, or you have to tilt the X-ray source to keep coverage of the X-ray sensor. But keep in mind that if you look at the power, the number of photons that are going to be generated on the X-ray source, you have 100% of the X-rays here and 100% X-ray photons here. So in a narrow beam, you're going to have 100% X-ray photons being projected against the X-ray sensor, while in a wide beam source, that 100% is going to be in a much wider area, meaning that just a fraction of those X-ray photons are actually going to eliminate the X-ray sensor. So that's one of the considerations you have to take when looking at a wide beam versus narrow beam, and that takes a lot of impact on how machines are designed. So hope this was helpful. If you need any more information, any questions, let us know, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.